Hello everybody, welcome to this happy 4th of July weekend episode of The Barbershop. I would like to say a quick thank you to all the veterans out there that have supported in any branch of the Armed Forces for the United States from one vet to another, as well as thank you to everyone that successfully still continues to support our military and our veterans that not only are actively or reservedly out there attempting to fight overseas or domestically, but those that have come home, even though more than likely and unfortunately they have not completely come home all the way. Because as a veteran, I'm well aware that obviously when we sign our life away with that blank check, when we raise our right hand and we swear in, we are undoubtedly going to pay with our life regardless. If not all at once, slowly over time. Thank you to everybody that is out there willing to fight for us, keep us all safe, and allow us to remain in our country, land of the free and home of the brave. Today, I'm enjoying a small shot of Jim Beam apple. It sincerely tastes like a cold, liquidated version of the green apple Jolly Rancher. I taste no whiskey, no alcohol burn, just cold, delicious, sugary, sweet goodness. Highly recommend it. At the moment, Jim Beam, I don't believe is very expensive. I believe I only paid about roughly $15 for this bottle. If you happen to notice any Jim Beam locally, there are a variety of flavors. There is going to be the Jim Beam regular. There's a Jim Beam called Red Stag. Pretty good. Old buddy of mine in the Army actually was a big Red Stag fan. I know that there's also peach, honey, vanilla, fire. I'm sure that there are any flavor that you can think of, you will find in a bottle of Jim Beam. Today I want to talk to you about my good buddy, John Beamon. He is in a band called Asunder. This is not his first band. He was originally also a member of the band locally Moosebite. However, he has continued to move on and branch out in his career, and he has started his own project called, again, Asunder. They are roughly a 5-piece band consisting of Lucas Munoz, John Beamon himself, Lucas Hendrix, Doug Prokop, and Will Melita. Now, these gentlemen have the bass player, 2 guitarists, John Beamon on vocals, and a drummer. And they recently, in St. Joseph, Missouri, at a local downtown bar, played at the Sk8bar. It was a cute, quaint, tiny little retro-style bar. Had a lot of awesome neon light, very punky. It was a great time. I got to attend, and seemed to know someone in the band. So happily, I did not have to pay anything at the door, but I believe it was only a $5 cover. Not a big deal. Pretty well accessible for live music these days. At the beginning of the show, roughly about 7:30, 8 p.m., there was easily 30 people already in the door. People were standing outside, waiting on getting their way in. And the band kicked off with a song called Eternity Collapse. It was able to showcase John Beamon's screaming abilities to start with some low gutturals that he was able to pitch up into high pig squeals, and he even utilized a couple of clean vocals throughout that song. It was very punchy. It was able to be brought home. It was a pretty great time. I believe the second song in the set list was called Kingfisher. If I remember correctly in the order of songs, this is the one where John Beamon himself popped off the stage, hopped in the crowd, pushed some people around, and initiated the mosh pit himself. John Beamon is a very energetic frontman, and he loves to, instead of dictate and direct movement, he gets in there and initiates it himself. Third song was called Monarchs to a Moth. Overall, personally, that's just creative, absolutely fantastic. There was a lot of showcasing on Doug Prokop, who musically writes numerous songs, and according to John Beamon, I believe has his own backlog for the band of roughly 30 songs that have been written musically that are titled that later John Beamon is going to be working on putting pen to paper to come up with some lyrics. In the lineup was actually a solo by their drummer, Lucas Hendrix. He provided a fantastic drum solo, in which case he was able to really show off what incredible talent this young man had. John Beamon told a story there at the show, actually. In roughly 2017, John Beamon was teaching at Benton High School, where he met up with Lucas Hendrix as a student. Flash forward here in time just a little bit, roughly February, March of this year, 2022, Lucas had hit up John and said, "Hey man, I'm interested in auditioning for Torn Asunder. Would you mind coming out to a show at the Rendezvous where Lucas was actively in a band called Ride?" They played their show, John got to attend, and apparently was pretty blown away, because I believe it was that same day where John went ahead and gave him the green light and told Lucas he was welcome into Torn Asunder. For roughly about a month, Lucas was in both Ride and Torn Asunder until he went ahead and completely went full-time with Torn Asunder. Unfortunately, I don't really believe Ride is still out or active. However, a little bit of a shout-out to them there for what time that they were on the scene. There is another gentleman named Lucas Munoz who is originally bass playing for Torn Asunder. This gentleman lives out in the Kansas City area. Now, that is roughly about an hour south, depending on drive time, depending on speed, depending on traffic, and I believe it makes it a little difficult for him to successfully get to and from practices and shows. However, he has worked with John Beamon in the past in a band called Moose Bite. We will talk more about them later on this week when I am excited to be able to get a sit-down interview with Cody Grable, who is originally a founding member of Moose Bite, the band that has been mentioned. But to move on, I'm going to focus on Torn Asunder and the gentleman previously mentioned. So the next song after Lucas Hendrix's awesome solo was a song called Animus. John Beamon was able to give me a little bit of information about how back in the day, before he had left Moose Bite and completely started Torn Asunder, the two bands attempted to make a supergroup, while Moose Bite in that era had no vocalist and had only one guitar player. At that immediate moment, Torn Asunder only had a vocalist and a guitar player. Therefore, the two meshed, made the supergroup that they attempted to name Animus. That was a very short-lived group, roughly about a month, according to John Beamon, and throughout Torn Asunder's career, Doug Prokop had musically written a song that he wanted to rename. John Beamon said, "Hey, you know what? Animus. Pretty great name, right?" The name Animus came from a little bit of inspiration from the Ubisoft game Assassin's Creed, where there is the utilization of an Animus machine. It was a fun little homage from John Beamon to throw in the word Animus to title a song, just to pay respect to a supergroup at one point that himself, with Torn Asunder and Moose Bite, were jointly in. The next song was called Maya. There was never a dull moment. I remember at one point watching the mosh pit happen, and I just felt it in my heart. I feel like I got very matched to the drum line, to Lucas Hendrix just pounding away on those skins, and I just thought, I'm going to get up and I'm going to beat the shit out of somebody. Now, no, I did not violently go and strike anybody. However, if you are a rocker, a metalhead, a mosher, you're aware that, moshing is just like how hippies have their silly, goofy noodle dances. Moshing is just a aggressive, energetic, high-speed, violent form of dancing. So I got up and I danced my ass off. The next song, I believe, in the lineup was called Inversion, You and I believe it was that song in which John Beamon hopped back off of the stage into the crowd and led what other musicians may refer to as gang chanting. He pumped his fist, roared out his gang chant, and a lot of the audience happily joined in. I was not immediately aware of this song, nor was I immediately aware of the lyrics. Did not happen to join in myself. Nevertheless, with a little more confidence, I happily would have been pumping my fist right along with them. They finished with Godslayer. Godslayer was a fast-paced song that really blew my mind. It was incredibly energetic. The entire bar felt like there was a buzz and jitter, not only from the beverages that were flowing, but from the fantastic music provided by Torn Asunder. And they ended up going ahead, ending the show with that seventh song, eighth in the lineup, with Lucas Hendrix's solo. And they definitely had their own crowd. As I looked out through the audience, there were multiple people in Torn Asunder shirts. And Torn Asunder currently is on Spotify. However, their immediate songs on Spotify are much older than what Torn Asunder is doing now with their general direction. They currently have 3 songs out, and their artwork has definitely changed, not necessarily for the better or from the worse. However, what is on Spotify references the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and their newer stuff is much more focused on the name and the initials for Torn Asunder and the TA. And to have looked out through the crowd and saw people in TA Torn Asunder shirts, and to have seen people in the Harbinger Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse Torn Asunder shirts, it was a fantastic coming together of old school fans of Torn Asunder and new listeners of Torn Asunder that were just enjoying rocking it out in a retro little bar down in St. Joe's downtown scene. It was a fantastic time. Torn Asunder did happen to play with a band. I believe it was Born in Ruin that came on after Torn Asunder. At the moment, going to go ahead and admit, I did not end up staying for Born in Ruin. However, that is a little bit to do with dad life. I needed to get home, let the missus have her own break, as little man was having his own evening, being quite the rambunctious little rowdy 1-year-old. However, still, give Born in Ruin a search on all socials, and give them a listen, enjoy them, support them, let them know that you're there for them. Same with Torn Asunder. Look them up. You can find all of these gentlemen, Lucas Munoz, Lucas Hendrix, John Beamon, Doug Prokop, and Will Melita, I believe, at a minimum on Facebook. The others for sure on Instagram. Give them a follow. Let them know you're there. Let them know you support them. Thank you, everybody, for listening. As always, I am Jeremy at the barbershop, and as long as the lights are on and there's beer in the fridge, we will have a barbershop.